you played at the Fly last year for Swift. I was wondering, as my first question, how it feels to be on Team Forge this year.
Different, I suppose. There'll be a different vibe, I'm sure. It'll be interesting. Haven't had much time to really chat with the team, so don't know, what Joe Longley, the coach, and Gavin, what direction they're planning on taking. It's interesting because it's not just the players that are different on the teams, but the coaches are different on the teams. So, last year I think it was Mike Bartlett involved with the Forge. So, I think all the teams are going to have different identities this year to last year. So I think it's all just a huge change. So yeah, I'm interested to see how a similar format will bring out different outcome.
Absolutely. And how are you personally preparing for the Fly this year? Is it as similar to how you was preparing last year, or have you changed a few things?
No, absolutely flipped on its head. Last year we just come out of 18-month lockdown. This year it's the never-ending season. Season finished about April, May. It was a bit stretched out because of COVID anyway, and then it's sort of it's felt like it's continued, and my lacrosse is sort of hasn't really stopped yet. So it just feels like the season's just kept on going. So yeah, preparation is I'm still at the end of the season, still training as if we've got games every week. So it's very, very different to last year.
So that's been a positive in that sense, almost, that, okay, you've been playing quite a lot of lacrosse. But
just playing lacrosse, yeah. Last year I played the Fly off the back of, because of my living circumstances, I didn't get a chance to really play much lacrosse last year. So I played the Fly off the back of really no lacrosse of 18 months. And then playing now is off the back of arguably a really hectic season, because I've had, been playing in the Semler this year, plus had the Euros of Wales back in April. I've had commitments with British lacrosse up until last weekend. We're in Germany, and then we've had stuff with Spencer has been going on through finals and whatnot up until about 2 weeks ago. So it's been very, very full on. I think this is the most hectic season I've ever been involved in since I've been playing lacrosse.
Yeah, and you mentioned those international tournaments that you've been involved in with Wales and GB. How does that help you prepare for a competition like the Fly, doing the international tournaments?
I saw it just has your game ready. So at the moment, I sort of feel like I'm in competition mode, and it's just every other weekend there's a competition. So, you prepare yourself. It's more maintenance rather than, building and training towards something. Since about April, it's just been, right, you're in competition mode. So make sure you're ready for the next competition. And the Fly is pretty much going to be the last competition on my calendar, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah, I think it's the last competition. So it's just maintain and make sure you're ready. And we're getting to the stage now where the niggles are coming in and trying to make sure that injuries don't become full-blown injuries and, things like that. So it's very much maintain, recover, prep for the next thing rather than training towards a particular tournament sort of thing. Yeah, so it just feels like the competition's been going since the start of April.
Yeah. And you say that you've not had chance to sort of talk with your teammates sort of thoroughly just yet. How do you think that'll be when it comes to the Fly, having not had that chance to sort of do a bit of training with them?
I think it's just going to rely on everyone's ability to read, react, and adapt, which are core concepts of Six's format anyway. I think, we're gonna arrive on the Friday. I think we've got a chance to train, and it's going to be right. In we go. You either adapt and move on, and or you just, it's not going to work. So it's just the nature of the game. I'm not sure what other teams are doing, but I think most teams are going to be in the same boat. So same sort of level playing field, just see which team reacts and adapts to the situation at hand, and meeting new players, playing on different teams, like who connects quickest, who figures out the best way for all the players to get the best outcome.
And you've been selected as Forge's captain this year, so congratulations for that. But how do you think you'll be able to help the rest of the team, given that you played at the Fly last year and now that you've been selected as captain?
I think it's experience. I think that I've got experience from field international tournaments since about 2016. Had the privilege of playing for Wales in Euros and Worlds and whatnot. Most recently over in Poland. I've also, like you mentioned, played in last year's Fly, and really there's not much sixes been going on prior to last year. So anything playing the Fly, you've got sixes experience. I've been training with the British Lacrosse squad, so that's more sixes experience. So I think it's such a new, novel format that any experience is invaluable. And one of the key things is not letting the hectic nature of the format sort of engulf you and overwhelm you, because you can blow out in the first 4 minutes if you don't, if you're not careful. So I think just bringing a bit of experience and sort of I'd like to say a level head, but we'll see what happens in the first game.
Absolutely. And I'm just wondering what your relationship will be like with Joe during the actual competition. Will you be able to work closely with Joe and Gavin and sort of, like you say, to give that experience? Will it be?
Yeah, I hope so. I went to the 2018 World Games, World Championships with Wales with Joe, and he's been a coach. He's done some coaching with Wales when I've been a player there, and yeah, we've been on the same team and we chatted quite a lot. He got in touch with me about this, so it works quite well that he is the coach. And yeah, when he asked me to be captain, it was a no-brainer. So I think, yeah, he's already asked me a few things, so I think we've got a good understanding. And the way I've always believed the captaincy should work is you're the coach's voice to the players, and you're the player's voice to the coaches. So you've just got to be that in-between guy who communicates and keeps the messages flying between the two parts of the squad.
Yeah. And just moving on to you a bit more as a player, what is your style of play? For people who haven't seen you play before, what can they expect from you as a player this year?
Well, unfortunately, I have spent most of the last 10 years playing my trade as a face-off man. And then sixes came along and decided to pretty much scrap the face-offs. So I've had to adapt. I've had to adapt and actually learn the rest of lacrosse as the butt end to most of the boys' jokes. So yeah, it's I'm scrappy. I don't let anything. I pick up ground balls. I work hard in the middle of the pitch, and I like to think myself as pretty solid at defence. And offence, I'm working on it. And yeah, I won't let anything go without scrap. So it's a little tough with the rules. That's something that I believe a lot of these new players who are coming in to this tournament this year will have their eyes opened, is the rules on contact, because you have to take a step back. Normally I'm a very much more I certainly enjoy the aggression side of the field game. So you just got to be a bit more conservative in the sixes, which is something that I've certainly learned. But my time with British Lacrosse has certainly pushed forward my offensive game. So I'm hoping this year I'll actually be able to, exhibit some of that offense a bit more. We'll see. Might not happen, but hopefully it will.
Yeah, and just for people who might not know, could you just explain a bit more about what it means to be a face-off specialist and what that would entail, and then how you've made that transition? Be interesting to know that.
Well, so normal field format is you have a face-off before, at the start of every quarter, and then after every goal. So you have 30 goals a game, and you've got about 34 face-offs. So you're very busy. But then in sixes, it's just one face-off at the start of each quarter. Now it still has an effect, winning a face-off, going straight down and scoring. The rules are different. There's no in a field you've got wingmen, and it becomes very scrappy, and it doesn't always lead to a goal. However, in sixes, it's pretty much a one-on-one rather than it being a 3-on-3 like in field. It's pretty much a one-on-one, and if you can get the ball straight from a face-off, you can lead to the goal really quickly, and that's that can be a momentum swing. It's just not as integral in sixes as in the field. If you've got a dominant face-off man on a field format, you can win possession after every goal, and you immediately have a massive advantage. Whilst in sixes, you only get that advantage at the start of the quarter. So yeah, it sort of evens the playing field on that side of things for teams that don't have a face-off specialist. It means that they're probably in the game. They're going to be in the game. They're going to get 50% of the possessions after every goal, every shot. So, but for me, it's been quite nice because you as a face-off specialist, you turn up to a team, they make you take face-offs. So it's quite nice being in a format where you're not a face-off specialist, so you are just exploring different sides of the game without the pressure of go and win every face-off. There's a bit more, right, just go and play lacrosse, which is, yeah, it's been quite a fulfilling experience to be fair.
Yeah, I guess it's a good format in that sense, in that attackers can try the hand at defending, and defenders can try the hand at attacking a bit more.
Absolutely. You can't hide. To be honest, a sixes player, you can't be. There is no positions in sixes apart from goalkeeper and outfield player. We've been exploring this with the British lacrosse lot. The guys who are going to World Games for the past 6 months. We've been exploring what makes a sixes player, and yeah, you can't hide. If you're a great attacker, you are going to be on defense, and you're going to have to play defense. It's very hard. It's too quick to get your subbing games on and off. We were out in Germany last weekend, and we blew teams away because we kept all our players on the pitch and just did stints offense and D, whilst other teams were subbing all their defenders off or all their attackers off. We just left them exposed, and then we were able to run down and make transition goals. So you get about 5 goals in a quarter just because they've all subbed off and we've all stayed on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and defenders, they will have an opportunity to play their hand in offense, which loads of defenders, guys who play long pole in field, they always want to run across the pitch and play attack and sting the ball in the goal. Or if they get a chance during a scrimmage, they're like, oh, let me play attack. Well, here's an opportunity for them to.
And just finally, we keep mentioning you played at last year's The Fly, but what are you most looking forward to about the tournament this year?
Well, I'm most looking forward to it's a real privilege to have a tournament in which is, almost like inclusive in the sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Complementary, so in this game, in the sport, in this country, there isn't much that you get on the house. So it's quite nice to have a tournament in which, it is complementary, and, we're getting it paid for, and you're being invited and asked to progress the game. But I suppose, so that's something, that's probably the student inside me talking, all free tournament, great. But it's expanding this format, and I'm a true believer that this format is going to take lacrosse to the next level. It's got the opportunity to push into Olympics. If British lacrosse, whether I'm involved in it or not, if British lacrosse is going to push towards the Olympics, and in the next 6 years, it needs to have a sixes domestic league. It needs to have some form of sixes domestic lacrosse in which the players who are going to represent British lacrosse at the Olympics come from. You can't just expect guys who've been playing field or box to suddenly be good enough to compete for British lacrosse in the Olympics. You need to have a domestic league. Rugby sevens have a domestic league. Hockey domestic leagues. There are domestic leagues for all the formats, and high-level domestic leagues as well. So, last year was a start, and it was a great tournament. This year, it's a new crop of players. It's going to be a bit more diverse, and I think we're going to see some talent that we didn't know of this year. And it's just another stepping stone towards sixes being involved on the world stage, and Olympic format as well.